And I'll just say the third thing is actually the thing, which I think is the strategy for women of all ages, which is self-approval. And you'd think that wouldn't be its own circle. It would be like the middle, but it's not. It's actually a practice. It's like this isn't just a linear thing, these three things. They're like a labyrinth, and it's like a circle and so you practicing approving of yourself in little ways to begin with, if that's what's right for you, while being witnessed in sisterhood, while noticing what's coming up in your body. Do you see what I mean? So it's also woven
Yeah.
together. So there are many ways to experiment with self-approval.
Hey, badass listeners. Welcome back to another episode of Midlife Strategies for Badass Women. I'm your host, Sue Willoughby, and today we are getting radically honest with the incredible Libby Bunten. Libby is an ex-clinical therapist turned somatic embodiment coach and the powerhouse founder of Self-Approval School. She is sparking a massive movement to help women stop outsourcing their worth and finally start giving themselves their own stamp of approval. If you're exhausted from the endless cycle of perfectionism, people-pleasing, patriarchal conditioning, this episode is going to hit home for you. Libby blends deep nervous system work, true sisterhood, and a whole lot of irreverent honesty to help you reclaim your relationship with yourself that is anchored in self-trust, pleasure, and full-bodied truth-telling. When she isn't busy writing her memoir, leading her badass community, you can find her lifting weights, singing karaoke, or traveling the world with her Hebrew hunk of a husband. Get ready for a beautifully weird, brave, and transformative conversation today with Libby Bunten. So let's get into it. Hey, Libby, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on today. And as I said in your bio, I love the work that you're doing about self-approval. And I think that it's really important. As women, we don't give ourselves enough self-approval and signing our own permission slips and all of that stuff. So I'd love to kind of kick off the conversation talking about that and how you got into this work.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. And I know you and I have been connecting for the last couple of weeks. So that's just so fun to see your face again. Okay. So how I got into this work, I guess I would start with kind of a ruthless lived education in self-disapproval is how I got into
I
this.
love that description.
Yeah. Like I had a PhD in self-disapproval and I grew up, so I'll tell like a little bit of my story
Yeah,
because I think
please.
that helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I grew up in on a tiny peninsula in like down East Maine. It kind of functions like an island. Like there's just a little strip of land and 500 people, super, super wealthy town, really poor family that I grew up in with a lot of like chaos, conflict, addiction stuff. My parents were super young when they had kids. So it was like kids trying to raise kids. And the land was so beautiful and like kept me going. I think I'm realizing that now as I like go back and visit there. I'm like, God, it's so beautiful here. And there was a lot of witnessing the women around me, all like incredibly badass women, watching them disapprove of themselves. So just like watching them kind of constantly negotiate over what they're eating, watching them take like breadcrumbs from men, my father included, like watching them, just kind of always be in this swirl of not feeling okay in their bodies specifically, for sure. So like very cherishing, amazing women who weren't outwardly criticizing me, but I was like vicariously absorbing that by watching how they kind of functioned in the everyday life. And then I also had some like pretty serious trauma stuff. So I learned some things at a young age that I internalized, which we all do. And that evolved into things like, kind of like some self-destructive things, including stuff with my body and eating disorder stuff. And so I really took this approach of like high achieving and trying to kind of like get out of that, like feeling like I wasn't good enough, I guess you could say. And that actually led me to further disapproval because I was trying to fill a void with something out here instead of
Yeah.
something in here. Although I massively celebrate my master's degree and all those things and all the travel, it was just like I kept kind of looking for something outside of myself. So I got a master's degree in clinical therapy and realized this is not it. And I was still like, I checked all the boxes and like, I'm
Yeah.
sure there are women raising their hand listening to this, like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I did all the things I was told to do that would make me feel good about myself. And I was still suffering and disapproving of myself. So that's a little bit. I'll stop there for now.
No, yes, I completely understand. It's we always are thinking, well, when I get to this stage, then
Yes.
I'll be good. And
Yeah.
when I get this achievement, then I'll be golden. And then when I, and then you get there and you're like, well, shit, this isn't it either. So
Right.
now what?
Yeah. Yeah, I call it if only thinking, like, if
Yeah.
only I could lose 5 pounds, if only I got that job, if only I got another certification. And what we do is we're like punishing ourselves the entire way to that destination
Mm,
when feeling good now is actually the fastest way to feeling good ever.
yeah.
So obviously it
Sounds
sounds,
easy.
yes, easier said than done. It sounds so simple. Okay, we're
Okay, we're
done.
done here.
You
Thanks.
can stop the
Bye now.
recording. But it's hard to believe when you grow up in a culture that is
Yeah.
like waterboarding you with delayed gratification, especially as women, waterboarding you with like pleasure deprivation. You know, we're hardwired for deprivation versus nourishment and pleasure, but we're
Mhm.
inherently designed for nourishment and pleasure. So we're
Right.
like, what do I do with all this shit?
Yeah. Yeah, what
Yeah.
do we do with all that shit? Tell me.
Yeah. Like, well, there's so many approaches. Um, I will just say, like, one of the things that I had to kind of come to was the end of myself in that situation. Like, I was
Mm.
kind of army crawling through my life, but looking good doing it, you know, like spinning the plates and doing the things and whatever and helping everyone else. And I had to come to the end of myself. I was like, this is hell. I feel like garbage all the time. I I'm looking around and like none of this is making me feel better. And
Mm.
I really didn't know what to do. And what actually happened was, and I was trained as a therapist, you know, I had a great therapist, well, blah, 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 all the things. But I accidentally came across this coaching program called Rockstar Camp for Women, which is no longer running, but
I love the name. That's
oh, it was so amazing. And you actually sang on stage at a public ticketed event with a live band at the end of it, even if you couldn't carry a tune. Okay. It was like
wow, that's
part, yeah, it was a part
okay,
of
it
it.
sounded really cool in theory until you said that. I'm like, "Oh
Right.
boy."
By the time that rolls around, you're ready to do it. So, anyway, this coach came across my screen and I was like, I don't know what is happening here, but this is like, I feel a yes towards this. s- Set up a time to talk with her, ended up doing Rockstar Camp and completely came undone. Like
Nice.
I was in a dark night of the soul for so long and I didn't realize that, like in this sort of, I say dark night of the soul, which I actually really appreciate them now. It sounds scary, but like I'm always more myself on the other side of it. But
Mhm.
I was truly in a dark night of the soul. And my mom had taken her own life
Mm.
like a couple years before this. And so I was like really struggling. And I ended up, I had no money at the time. It looked like I was fine. And I found like an old 401k with enough in it to pay for it. And I signed up. So I came across a woman who introduced me to many incredible tools, practices, things, and experiences. And her name's Megan Jo Wilson. She was the founder and the facilitator of Rockstar Camp, came completely undone in the arms of other women. In a sisterhood designed as we're actually meant to have sisterhood, where we're explicitly saying we're not going to talk shit about each other. We're not going to drag each other to the silver lining. We're going to connect over like shining and appreciation. So I came undone. And then she was like, who are you? And will you be my wing woman?
Nice.
And then I was like, me? I was such a freight train of crazy. And she was like, no, you totally get it. So Yeah, I found a really great coach, I guess is the short version of the answer. And I found some core components over the years of working with, a couple different coaches, but then actually working in their businesses with them. Um, and this whole like self-approval school, which is the name of what my business, um, just downloaded to my body as like I think you could say like a tapestry of all the things I'd picked up over the years.
That's pretty cool. Okay, here's some really good quotes going to come out of this. Like, freight train of crazy.
Yeah.
That just
Oh
gives me
yeah.
such a good visual. I
Oh
just
my
love that.
God.
But
Yeah.
apparently your freight train of crazy, was like, she's like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
She's like,
Can
"You're
I get
going
on?
for it. You're like
Yeah.
actually going for it. You're living it. You're embodying it."
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so like so many things happened in the years that transpired after that. And that's like I was laying on a massage table one day during COVID. My sister's a massage therapist, and I like channeled the whole curriculum, the name, everything for self-approval school. And
I love
and
it.
I'm happy to share about like the model of leadership that I developed as part of it. Um, but it like came flooding in and I wrote it down and then I cried and then said, "I'm not gonna do that," and I tucked it away. And a couple years later, I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be a coach." I left being a therapist a while before that, and I
Yeah.
decided to start coaching.
Interesting. Okay, so we have a lot to unpack here.
Mhm.
So
We do.
I want to go back and talk a little bit more or hear a little bit more about the community and
Mhm.
how that felt different to you because
Yeah.
you said that you grew up in a community of women
Mhm.
that were not self-approving,
Mhm.
and that was challenging. And what made this community different for you?
That's such a good question. I'm really fortunate to have had a lot of incredible women and female friends my entire life. Like my best friend, I've known our moms were pregnant together. Like I've known her since the womb, as we always say, from the womb to the tomb. But so I had really great sisterhood, and we had all been like culturally indoctrinated and accidentally conditioned into, connecting over complaint, thinking, gossiping about other women was like cool or whatever. It was just like baked into how we were raised as women. And lots of like wiring for codependency and like enabling and things like that. So I cherish those friendships. And in this particular sisterhood, experience, and it's funny you say community because that's like one of the core things of for self-approval school, um, is that we actually named all of those things. Like, here's the patriarchalized version of sisterhood that we've all been kind of it's in the air we breathe, it's everywhere we turn. And, thinness and smallness and, competition, and there's not enough to go around. And so we named those things out loud and then designed a space where we said we're not going to do that. We're actually going to learn how to celebrate ourselves out loud in front of other women and see what comes up for us as we do that and actually talk about that. And also really like intentionally designing a space where when I show up like a freight train of crazy and I'm like, in my grief or my rage, people are not trying to coddle me out of it. Because that's another thing that, I'm making kind of broad statements here, but we get conditioned into that as girls to like, oh, don't, be grateful for what you have and like, don't feel, don't cry,
You'll
whatever.
be fine.
You'll be
It's
fine.
all good.
Yeah. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps because we don't know how to actually be with what we're feeling when someone else is having that experience. So we like intentionally designed that. And I do that in my sisterhood spaces too, where it's like when the thing shows up, when the ugly thing rears its head, the patriarchalized sisterhood, I'm going to say, uh-oh, here we are. This is the thing we talked about might happen. And we're not going to do that. We're not going to drag each other to the silver lining or whatever. And we're going to learn how to really be with each other deeply because the fact that she's pissed off right now is probably exactly what she needs to express. So we're
Mhm.
going to believe her and trust her so that she can be in the process of approving showing up in her rage, for
Yeah.
example. So that would be a great example of the difference.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you for bringing that, making that distinction between how we normally show up in community as women. And like you said, broad brush statement.
Mhm.
And we're not used to supporting each other where we really are.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's huge.
It's huge, and the thing that's really wild, that's important, I feel is really important to say right now is that we really wanna love each other well. Like, that's the
Mm,
thing I learned is, like, women really want to love each other well. So, like, the moment that gets, like, named and designed, it it kind of fixes itself, and women just go so deep with each other so quickly when they
mm,
realize they don't have to be worried that someone's gonna, like, take theirs, I guess you could say. So I think it's really important to just say that part.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is like you were talking about the dark night of the soul, right?
Mm.
We all have that, and I think that that's another thing that we avoid.
Mhm.
And we're like, "Oh, I can't go there." And like you said, you actually feel really comfortable
Mhm.
once you're either there or coming out of that.
Yeah.
I think we all need to really dig deep and get into those places that we don't wanna go.
Mhm.
How the hell do we do that? I mean,
Yeah.
I've been there, and I know that on the other side, it's
Yeah.
like, if you don't go into the darkness, you're not gonna find the light.
Exactly. Sometimes I'm like, "Am I a little too comfortable in the underworld?" Because like, sometimes the above world feels weird. But yeah, exactly. It's like, "What's happening out here?" So yeah, well, the rupture that happened when I, like, lost my shit, I guess you could say, in self-approval school, and what I mean by that is, like, fully expressed myself in all my feelings. The rupture was the exact thing I had been, like, bracing off, and it was, like, why the dark night was continuing and continuing and continuing, and I was just trying to, like, brace the dam or whatever metaphor you wanna use, and the dam actually needed to break, and that was, like, such a necessary experience, and it's like, call it what you want, like an exorcism or something. It's like all these things kinda start to fall away that you realized you were carrying that weren't your beliefs to begin with. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yes.
yeah.
We do carry a lot of shit that's not ours, and
Mhm.
it's difficult to say, "Okay, this is mine, I can own this, but
Mm.
that shit's yours, and I don't need to
Mhm.
carry that around because I got enough crap that I've got in my backpack or
Totally.
my steamer trunk or whatever that is."
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and it's I think giving ourselves, once again, the self-approval, the permission
Mm.
to say, "That's okay. I
Mhm.
don't need that's your stuff."
Mhm.
And finding that line, what is mine and what is yours?
Yeah.
So do you
Absolutely.
work with that in your community as
Oh,
well?
yes. Oh gosh, yes. So, one thing that I think might be helpful to share is
Mm,
after it kind of reverse engineered itself, but after running self-approval school for a long time, and of course, I used to be a therapist and all that stuff. And so after running it for a while, these themes, like core themes, emerged, and I realized that there was like a model for what I call self-leadership. So I call it embodied self-leadership,
mhm.
and there are core components, and they all lend themselves to finding your way, to realizing that you're worthy simply because you exist.
Huh,
And I think that they're important, um, maybe even like required things to make the process like bearable and help you kind of be cushioned by these things on the way, including the sisterhood. So one of the first sort of like it's a Venn diagram basically of three circles, and embodied self-leadership is in the middle. And the first one is sisterhood. It's community and connection. And so I call it sisterhood in these spaces. Sometimes when I teach this in like organizations, I call it just community and connection. But we're carrying around like again, these are some like hills I'll die on. Like as women, we're kind of like traumatized out of being ourselves, and like and traumatized out of our bodies being, our bodies are so knowing of what is right and wrong for us. And so we need to have these spaces where we can be fully seen, um, and experiment in real time out loud with other people witnessing us and living to tell the story. So unless you're going to design that with your friends, I think like finding some sort of group or whatever, creating your own community, whatever it is, where you actually have these agreements, um, where it's like, okay, we're kind of going into this. We can redesign as we go, but we're going into this with the commitment to, again, like I said before, not trying to fix people, not trying to drag someone to the silver lining, not telling a woman just to be grateful for what she has or whatever, fill in the blank for all the things. And learning to kind of feel what happens in your body as you experiment in real time in the sisterhood. And I always see myself more clearly through the mirror of sisterhood. It's like if trauma in this idea of us carrying around all this trauma about our bodies and being a woman on this planet causes shame, which causes isolation, the antidote to that is sisterhood and connection. So that's like the first component of that. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, but
Oh, I have thoughts. No.
let's hear your thoughts.
No, it's interesting because, okay, so when you were talking about the sisterhood being sort of the mirror, right? When I work with horses in my coaching practice, that's exactly what they do. They mirror what's going on inside of us so that we can then be more aware of, how things are showing up in our bodies, right? From a somatic standpoint.
Yeah.
And being able to understand that, like it happens in here before it gets up to our heads. And what does it feel like? Because most people can't, they have a hard time when you ask somebody, what are you feeling right now? They'll say a word.
They won't.
They don't know, right? They don't know how to describe where it is in their body and what's going on.
I feel like maybe you're psychic, because the second thing that is in part of this embodied self-leadership model is somatic awareness and embodiment. And it's exactly what you're talking about, because again, our bodies, this is evidence-based. I'm not making this up. There's all kinds of studies. I can't cite them here, but there's evidence that proves that our bodies know far before our brains do. And our bodies, in essence, have a brain of their own. There's like a brain field of the body, I guess you could say. And again, when we've had so many lived experiences and so much programming that our bodies are not safe, they're not fill in the blank enough, they're not thin enough, they're not curvy enough, they're not small enough, they're not big enough, they're not, it's like a completely ever-changing target by design. But when we are so traumatized out of like knowing what's happening in our bodies, of course, we're not going to know how to be with all the things happening in our body, and trust that our body is actually the safest place because she knows, right? So like somatic tracking, there's all kinds of ways to do this. But somatic awareness and embodiment as the second component, it's like helping women learn how to tune into what's happening in their body, even when it's scary, and not just trying to regulate themselves out of what they're feeling. So like an important thing I want to just kind of like add here, because this is a big thing I've been on lately, a big tear I've been on, is there's a lot of nervous system people out there right now, like, gotta regulate your nervous system. And nobody's talking about, or I haven't seen it, that we don't want to learn how to regulate away our experiences. And also our nervous system might be responding because there's an actual threat. So you don't want to be regulating yourself in an unsafe environment. So I just had to say that because other people will be listening, and I think that's important. But really learning how to be with all that's happening in your body speak to it, communicate with this somatic expression that's happening, and learning how to kind of read it, see how it can serve you. And then embodiment, my definition of embodiment is being able to actually stay without dissociating while all of that is happening inside of you.
Yeah.
So you're psychic. You already knew what I was going to say.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I think, when I can see and I can sense, and the horses know,
Mm,
because they can feel it before the person actually acknowledges what's going on with them,
mhm.
and you can see the tears well up, and you can see
Yeah.
and that's why it's like, what's really going on? What are you feeling right now?
Mhm.
Where are you feeling that in your
Exactly.
body? Where? And then it takes a while to
Mhm.
kind of be like, I don't know. I
Mhm.
I've not been in my body for a while,
Right.
right? Because we're just up in our brains all the time, and we can justify things, we can
Mm.
reason things away, and we can just be like, okay, I got it. I
Mhm.
understand that now.
Yeah,
Um, but to really get in your body, and it's interesting. So it's like,
it
okay,
is.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
I remember I'll never forget the first time in that first dark night that I was telling you about, because there's been others since, but, I'll never forget the first time I heard this woman who I learned a lot of cool things from say, "Your body's not just a head carrying device." And I was like, "Oh,
"Oh, really?"
oopsie, like, uh-oh, I didn't even think about that." You know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
you don't know it until it's reflected back to you or
Mhm.
whatever. She was saying it to a room full of people, but everyone was like, "Oh."
Huh, what is it?
Oh,
Yes.
oops. Yeah, yeah,
Well, it's
yeah.
true. And because we do spend so much time in our heads, and,
Mm,
we have that, all those stories are on a loop, and it's like, "Okay, which
mhm,
one shall I put in the playlist today?"
mm. Yeah. There's this thing, I don't know if you've heard of human design, and I won't go down this rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I do
I'm
human
happy to go
design
down the
readings.
human
Okay.
design.
I'm a projector, and I've been studying human design for many years, and I do readings and all that stuff, and I incorporate it in my coaching with people. And wait, there was a reason I was saying this. What did you say right before this? Now I just lost my thought. We
Uh,
were talking about
we're talking about that's okay, keep going.
No, but I totally forgot. It was something to oh, yes. I in one of my human design classes I took, this is what they say in human design is your mind is a gift to everyone except for you. And I was like, in human design. And it doesn't mean we're not smart and there isn't
Right,
value in all that. But I was like, oh, that's good. That's really good. To speak to exactly what you were saying was like the stories we carry around. Which tape am I going to put in today and hit play
right.
and not even know I'm hitting play? So yeah, that's why I had
Well,
my human
since
design
we're
moment.
in the human design rabbit hole,
Mm,
uh, you're a projector.
mhm.
Welcome, I'm a projector.
I love projector sisters. This
Me
makes me so
too.
happy.
So let me ask you a question about this. Before you realized you were a projector, what
Mm.
did you think you were?
Well, I didn't know what
Or how were
human
you
design
acting?
was. Yeah, I was acting like a generator. I didn't know
Of
what
course.
human design was until I found out I was a projector. It was like it was actually a very projector experience is how I found out about it. I got invited to take a class for free by a woman
Mhm.
who didn't know me, who lived in Hawaii, who was offering the class for many $1,000. And she was like, "I don't know why, but you should take this." And she didn't charge me, and
Uh-huh.
she didn't even know what my design was. It was a very interesting experience. So, that actually happened as I emerged from the rupture from Rockstar Camp, feeling, like, better for having gone through the dark night, and that was a real big crossroads in my life, and talk about a map for self-approval, like, that's part of why I love human design is, like, I'm helping people people feel so validated when they start looking at
Yeah.
their chart and they're like, "Oh my god, like I'm actually supposed to be provoking, environments for change, which is my karma." I'm like, my whole life made sense. I was like, "Okay." So,
Right? I have to wait to be invited, which is
yes.
interesting because
So
I've always
interesting.
been pushing, 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 and not
Mhm,
and wondering why I'm exhausted and
mhm,
things aren't working out. It's like,
mhm.
no, you sit and you wait, and I'm like, wait, oh, I don't like that. I gotta wait.
I know, and it's so hard, especially because like we have the gift of like seeing what's really going on.
Mhm.
We're like, I have the answer, or I can see how this needs to change. And it's just like
Pick me.
I have been deep in the experiment for a long time, and I've been only doing invitations now for several months, and that's how I ended up on this podcast, if you don't
Yeah.
remember.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
anyway, there's so
I
much to
love
say
that.
about human design.
I know. I know. I love it, and I think it's fascinating, and I
Mhm,
talk about it with a
mm.
lot of people, and people are like, "What are you talking about?"
It's
But it's
so
so
yeah.
yeah.
It's so validating, it's so freakishly accurate, and I
Mhm,
love it too because it's very embodied, it's very, like, mechanically expressed, whereas,
mhm.
like, just typical astrology, which I identify with and I love, is a lot of ideas, but there's not, like, here are the mechanics of how you can try living that, and that's what I love about
Right.
human design, it's, like, embodied.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's funny because when you're gonna laugh, but I went to the, body graph, whatever that thing is, and I
Mm.
put in my birthday, and I put it in wrong
Oh
because it's
gosh.
I put it, you know.
Backwards because they have
Yeah.
it's European that
Yes,
yes.
exactly. So I put it in wrong, and I'm like, "Yeah, see, of course, I told you I was a generator." And then I was like, "Uh,
Oops.
oh, oops." Like,
You're like, "Oh,
"Oh."
darn, I'm not." I know, I was
Right?
like I was like, "I don't think you're right." Like, I think that this is actually, like, I think I'm a j I think I'm that other thing. I
Yeah.
really a lot of projectors have that experience where they're like, "No, no, I'm not that. I'm definitely a generator." It's
Well,
so
and I
funny.
and then you look at the body graph, right, with
Mhm,
all the lines
mhm.
and everything like that, and I'm like, "There's nothing going on there."
I know.
It's just this you got one center and you got
I
so sorry,
know.
for folks who don't know anything, go look up human design and,
Yes, yes,
you'll
I
have a
could
better idea of what's going on.
yeah. Story for another time.
So right.
Oh,
Episode 2.
I love
Alright,
it.
so we got off on the human design train,
Yes,
so let's get
yes.
back on the rails here.
We're back on the rails. We talked about somatic awareness and
Yes.
embodiment and the brain of the body.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll just say the third thing is actually the thing, which I think is the strategy for women of all ages, which is self-approval. And
Mhm.
you'd think that wouldn't be its own circle, it would be like the middle, but it's not. It's actually a practice. It's like a this isn't just a linear thing, these three things. They're like a labyrinth and it's like a circle and a, you know, um, so you practicing approving of yourself in little ways to begin with, if that's what's right for you, while being witnessed in sisterhood, while noticing what's coming up in your body. Do you see what I mean? So it's also
Mhm.
woven
Yeah.
together. So there are many ways to experiment with self-approval. And I do have like a freebie that I can give the people who are listening to this that are my favorite embodiment practices, which I think help with self-approval. And one of them, if you want to know one,
Yes, please.
it's really silly and fun. I call it jiggle therapy. So women have been particularly traumatized about their thighs. So one of the things that I love to do is like look or invite women to do as well is like look in the mirror or you can lay on your bed or whatever and jiggle your thighs and watch them jiggle and practice feeling what it feels like, how good it feels to like release that like whatever's stored in your thighs.
Uh-huh.
Practice like little tiny hits of how can I look at this and enjoy myself. Um that one's like a little edgier than some of the other, like,
I
intro
love it.
practices, but
Yeah.
it freaks people out, like, looking at
Right.
themselves in the mirror is, like, terrifying, especially their thighs, um, but you can actually get to a point where it feels good to, like, animals, and we are animals, are designed to release trauma physically, release
Yeah.
things, charge physically, so it can be a really helpful practice.
Yeah. I love that. So here's a jiggling thing for you. So I was doing some full body tapping, right?
Mm.
And in the practice, they're like, kind of bounce when you're doing this and everything. I'm like, I got a hack for that because I get on my vibration. Speaking of
Oh,
jiggling,
yeah.
my vibration plate, and then
Mhm.
I do body tapping. So I'm like
Yes.
jiggling and tapping and doing all this stuff.
So
But
good.
it's so invigorating. And it's just So that's my little hack about jiggling. But I do,
I love
no,
that.
we don't like to look in the mirror at our bodies that we're ashamed of, and especially
Mm-mm,
the parts that we're not, like our
mhm,
bellies or our thighs or our butt or
mm.
whatever. But I do love the
Yeah.
jiggling. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like making pleasure a priority, like right now, it's like accessing and realizing that you're actually the center of pleasure. Like it's not out there. It's like something that it doesn't happen without you. So like another like less terrifying practice could be, and I'm just going to get weird right now.
I
And you
love it. It's
can
supposed to be a weird conversation. I put that
you
in
can
the
count on
intro.
me for that. But and you can do this with me if you want. But it's just taking your fingertips and
Uh-huh.
caressing your face and your neck and just like literally savoring the feeling of like, oh gosh, a little more pressure would feel good. Or I just really like how slow that is. And like literally just, oh yeah, that's right. I'm taking a pleasure break right now.
Mhm.
This is like a pleasure bath. And it's
Mm,
always available. Just this one tiny, simple little thing. Right.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, "Oh my gosh, wow, I have a body and it actually feels good right now in this
Right?
moment." And
Interesting.
okay, I did it and I lived to tell the story.
And now everybody can watch that on YouTube. Awesome.
That's gonna get a lot of hits, us
Right.
caressing ourselves on the video.
And then talking about it.
Yes,
Like, "Okay,
exactly.
here we go."
Oh my gosh,
Yes, this is
so
it is a adult program.
mm.
Um, it actually had somebody tell me, "Oh, I was listening to your podcast in the car with my daughter," and I was like, "How old is she? Well, how'd that go?" She said, "Well, we had a lot of adult conversations
Mhm,
after."
mhm,
I
I
was like,
love
"Well, good for
it.
you."
So
Yeah, no,
good.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's so fun. I love all so, w when you have tell me a little bit more about your, self-approval school. So,
Mhm,
is it an online community? Is it only, like, in person with retreats? I mean, I would
mm,
think that it sounds very experiential
mhm,
and better served in IRL, in real
mm,
life, rather
mhm.
than online, but I'm sure there's some sort of online component just
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I love this. So I used to run it a certain way and I recently changed it. And
okay.
the new change starts June 2nd. I don't know when this will air, but so I used to run it as 2 months online as this like pressure cooker. It was like 2 calls a week for an hour. One
Mhm.
call was coaching, live coaching, and there was a theme every week, which I was happy to abandon if something else was more important. But, and then the second call was what I call a practice call or the sisterhood call, where there were lots of breakouts and tools and embodiment practices happening in real time. And then there was a day retreat at the end of it. Um, it was incredible, and everyone was like, "I can't believe you're stopping doing this." Everyone, I've only gotten great feedback, and there was just something in me that knew, and I, of course, have to practice self-approval. My body was like, "It's not this way anymore." So, I paused not knowing what I was gonna do. I just, like, surrendered and jumped into the void, and what kind of revealed itself is, I did start a podcast called the Self-Approval School Podcast, but the group now is actually like a membership, so it is online. It's 3 calls a month, and then the people in it's called Self-Approval School, the Sisterhood, and the people in the Sisterhood get access, like first refusal to the retreats that I do at this like really beautiful property on the coast of Maine, that my friend and I run together. It's
Love
completely
it.
off grid. It's like stunning. So I do, it's a hybrid. And I have gotten the feedback that the online really does transcend, like it feels like it's in person. People are like, the Zooms feel so important. Like they really love showing up to them. We move our bodies, we get weird, we rage, we grieve, we step into our sensuality. Um, so it is really experiential, even on the Zoom part. But then there are intermittent retreats. And of course I actually do like kind of intensive retreats, one-on-one or small group with my friend that I run the property with. Um, and I do like individual coaching as well, but the group work is now a membership.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And then how long are your retreats that you have? Are they like a weekend or a week
Yeah.
or
So I used to do like just a day retreat at the end, which was crazy because I had women fly from like Canada and
Okay.
California and Georgia to just come to this like half day thing at the end of their 2 months. The intensives I do for like the just an individual, those are about 3.5 days. But if somebody wanted something longer than that, we could design it. And then what we're doing now is organizing how we're going to run like market particular retreats, like help the helper retreats. My friend who I'm running it with, she has a PhD in behavioral health and she's an LCSW, but also like, you know, a weirdo like me. So
Love weirdos.
yeah, we want to help the helpers. We do that in like hospitals and clinics and stuff out west, but we want to do it in this more like intimate in person kind of, coaches like you or whoever, people who want to come to the property and have that type of experience. But as far as like the self-approval school situation goes, I will be offering self-approval school retreats to those people, probably 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, gotcha. I would think that, it's almost like you need a few days to,
Oh gosh. Yeah.
you know, get
Yeah.
into it and get acclimated and then be able to, start to
Mm.
become embodied.
And the women are dying to meet each other at that point. They're
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, "Let me hug everyone." And we do some really cool stuff in person. And a lot of times I'll actually have a photographer there for part of it for this practice where we actively move towards and through like grief, rage, and sensuality.
Mhm.
And the pictures are incredible. Some of them
That's cool.
they're all over my Instagram. I don't think they're all on my website, but yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I love that, not only being vulnerable, but that you're allowing yourself to be witnessed and captured on film or on
Yeah.
whatever digitally
Yeah.
during that process, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, that's
When a woman like sees, first of all, a woman who's like fully expressed is so hot. Like, a woman who's expressing in self-approval, like I always think of Katie Porter. Do you know who she is? The woman, she's like a congresswoman or a senator or something she's a teacher from California. And she's
okay.
like, this is how much a teacher makes. And this is how much you're telling them. And they don't have any money. And she's totally embodied in her rage, right? And like approves
Mhm.
of it. That is like a righteous rage. So like capturing a woman in that moment when we're doing the practices, when they see themselves, they're like, whoa, this is incredible. And we make it a point in the sisterhood in general to like express all the rainbow of emotions. Like sometimes we'll play with like, we'll have a call where it's like dresses the part of yourself that you're afraid to express. So it might be like your inner sloth, like goth sloth, whatever, or you're like ragey bitch or, whatever it is. So
Uh-huh.
but when women are captured in these full ranges of expression, it's really, like, emotional for them when they see the pictures.
I love that. You should do a book,
I know, that's a
a
great
photo
idea.
book,
Like a
coffee table
casual
book,
coffee table book, like,
right?
Raging Women. I love that. That's a great
That would be
idea.
great, actually, or it
Great
could
idea.
be, an exhibition or something. I don't know. I think it's cool.
Yes.
That'd be great.
I know, that is a great idea. Thank you for that idea.
You're welcome. You're
I'll invite
welcome.
you to the show.
Okay, perfect. I love it. I love it. I have another quick question, but
Mm,
as we're kind of wrapping up, I wanted because you were a clinical therapist. What was your transition like from clinical therapist to coach? Because they're very
mhm,
different roles, and I think
mm.
a lot of people don't quite understand what the difference is. But
Yeah.
I'd like to know what your definition of the difference is and
Mhm.
how you transitioned from one to the other.
Yes, great question. So it wasn't a direct transition. So when I was a therapist, um, I knew pretty early on, once I got really in the field, that the healthcare system was not for me. Um, and also as a projector, like we were talking about earlier, I could see things that like people really needed, but that I couldn't do with them in therapy. And maybe like raging out or whatever it is. And I was just like, I remember having this really clear moment after my mom died, and I was sitting in the chair, and my client was talking to me, and I loved my clients. I was a great therapist, but I just remember thinking like, this is not the most potent use of my gifts, and I don't really even know what is, but it's not this. And
Mhm.
so I actually started a business completely unrelated to being a therapist or being a coach in the meantime, to kind of like phase myself out of that, which had a leadership component. It had sort of like a health and wellness component. I loved it. I was great at it. And it also was like a season of my life.
Yeah.
And as I continued down that road, because there were leadership opportunities and things like that, I kept getting the feedback that I was a coach, and I kept having coaches ask me to coach them. So it was kind of like my coaches were telling me I was a coach and all these things. And I would coach people for hours and hours for free. So there's that kind of journey. And I asked a coach friend of mine, I said, if you were me and you were going to monetize like a gift of yours, what would you do? She's like, you're a fucking coach. Like, I don't know what else to tell you, but like, I'll fill your practice if you
Uh-huh.
just start a coaching business. So I did. I do brag. It was great. It's been great. Um, but yeah, so and I would say like one of the core differences, here's the thing, is like coaching is therapeutic. Like you can't get around people's trauma, you can't get around,
Right.
and there just because I can doesn't mean I'm going to in coaching, right? Because there are things that ethically I don't think cross over and also things I don't want to do as a coach. However, the feedback I've gotten is that, like, I've had multiple people say, I worked with you for 2 months and I moved more than 2 years of therapy. And I have a great therapist, but like, I don't know what this witchcraft is, but like, it works. And people's therapists giving them that feedback too. Like, wow, I've been working with you for a long time. Like, this is really working for you. So one of the core differences though, that I want to name is like, there are many, and it's like, again, a Venn diagram, like they do overlap. Therapy has like a pathologizing about it, because you have to diagnose. I hated diagnosing. I was good at it, it's fine, but I just didn't agree with it a lot of the time. And diagnosis is actually statistically like very inconsistent. It's like less than 50%, maybe even less than 30% of the time, two clinicians will diagnose the same. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's a low percentage. And
Mm-hmm.
also the way the diagnostic manual was created was like a bunch of old white men screaming in a room, like who could get their diagnosis in there first. So, so there's problems there. So the pathologizing and the diagnostics aspect of it, I did not love. And like kind of forcing connection through assessment, I didn't love. So I do think those are some of the like shadowy differences, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, there's more to say about that, but I think that's probably a good enough answer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
And coaching is
Yes.
very like present oriented. It's very like, it's not, yes, your past is going to come up, but it's more like present and now and future.
Mm-hmm.
I do spend a lot of time with people about like past things that come up, and it's that somatic embodiment stuff is such a now thing, that you can spend the time in the present, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And absolutely.
And yeah.
Well, and that same thing with horses, like I said, things come up and I can see that and I can feel what what's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, are you okay to sit with this?
Mm-hmm.
Not saying, okay, well, when you're done crying, then we can
Right.
continue.
Yeah.
That's not what it's about. No, let's sit with this. Let's,
Mm.
embrace what's happening right now and figure out where it came from and what's going on. And like I said, obviously, if somebody's in very deep trauma response,
Mm-hmm.
that's not my area of expertise. And
Yeah.
I'm very clear with clients that that's not what I do. But
Mm.
obviously, like you said, these things are going to come up.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone is already in therapy
Mm-hmm.
for trauma, then we can work from that
Mm.
point.
Oh
So,
yeah, and I'll tell people when I do like enrollment calls and stuff, I'll ask them like if there's
mhm,
something significant going on. I'm like, "Do you have a therapist?" That is a critical component for your life.
mhm,
That's one of the great things about the woman who I've known since I was a teenager, who were like running these retreats together, is she is a PhD in behavioral health and still practicing as a therapist. So it's like
mhm.
we have a lot of room to
Yeah.
dance. with
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Mhm.
Because, like you said, things are going to come up and
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Libby,
Sue!
so fun and amazing talking with you. And I'm
Same.
so happy that, our little projector selves got together.
I know. I know. I'm so grateful. You're awesome, and I've loved, like, the the connection we made outside of this time. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's been really nice.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love that we were very close in proximity when I was up in Portland
I know.
recently. The other Portland.
The
I
other
said that
Portland.
actually in a coffee shop, and the person said to me, "Oh, you mean the other Portland that was named after this Portland?"
Oh
Meaning
my gosh.
Portland, Oregon, named after Portland, Maine. I was like,
Snobs.
okay, I see how you are, but you're probably right.
Oh my
So
gosh. It's ridiculous.
So as we're wrapping up here, what would you like to leave people with? Because I know that we really touched on a lot of
Mhm.
things and all very amazing, and I'm sure that it resonated with a lot of people in
Mhm.
many ways. So what would you like to leave my listeners with today?
Oh my gosh. There's so many things. The thing that I think is most important is that your body knows. Your body always knows what's right for you, whatever you're moving toward in your body or away from in your body, that's the truth. And also, you get to feel good now. You get to feel good now, and you're worthy simply because you exist, and you deserve to find, like, people and places and spaces where you get to start to live that now. You don't have to wait. Don't wait. In fact, the world is dying for self-approved women, like, screaming out,
Yes.
like, "For the love of God, please step into your self-leadership. Now this is not a drill. Now it's the time."
This is not a drill.
This
I
is
love
not a
that.
drill, honey. No.
So, if people want to get more connected with you, how would they go about doing that?
I can give you some links, and I'll say right now, I'm on Instagram. It's the Libby Bunten, so THE Libby Bunten. And my website is libbybunten.com. They can also find the Sisterhood, that membership, on my website. And the podcast is called the Self-Approval School Podcast with Libby Bunten. So I try to keep everything very
Libby
fluid in that
Bunten.
sense. And I'll give
Absolutely.
you the link to the free embodiment practices for your people as
Yes,
well.
and I think I have, and all of those will be in the show notes.
Amazing.
So please reach out to Libby and go on an adventure with her. You
Yes,
won't
please.
be sorry. Yes,
You.
please. This is not a drill.
This
Remember.
is not a drill.
Well, Libby, thank you so much for being on the show today. And for all of you listening, I hope you found today's episode inspiring. And if it's resonated with you, or you know someone who would love to hear this, share it with a friend. And that's all I'm asking you. And Libby, thank you for being here. And I hope we reconnect soon.
We will. Thank you so much.
All right. This is Sue Willoughby with Midlife Strategies for Badass Women, and I will see you next week.